afternoon, everyone. My name is Amit Mishra. I am the general partner at 321 Capital and also a trustee at Upskilling Global Foundation. We are here to talk about, the 75 year of independence, what we're calling the Azadi Ka Mahotsav. This is uh, this is getting brought to you by Dailyhunt and Mash Project. I would like to thank them to bring a lot of very interesting people who are going to talk about entrepreneurship and how we capitalize the youth. The youth who is actually doing a lot of interesting, engaging work in the entrepreneurship space. Uh, so about me, I have been running incubators. I've been running, different startup programs for the last few years in the Indian ecosystem and trying to see if we can take them to different markets. Uh, I would like to introduce Yatin Thakur, a good friend of mine, who is also the chairperson for Gen Asia. Welcome, Yatin. We have Professor Niharika Vora, who is the VC for Telescale. And welcome, Professor
Hi.
Vora.
Hi.
And we have Sovir Anand, who is the CEO and MD for Innovation Council. Innovation. Welcome, Sovir.
Hey, hi. Thanks for having me.
Right. So, before we start, I would appreciate if three of you can talk about your the work you're doing with the government, with entrepreneurs, and also what you're thinking. We're talking about Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. What is your take on this entire program, and how do you think that we can do more in terms of building the next stage entrepreneurs from India? Professor Vora, if you want to take that first.
Sure. So I currently head this university called the Delhi Skill and Entrepreneurship University. So one of the things we do at the university is to incubate the young business blasters who about 30 teams to see if they can be helped to take the businesses forward. We're also working with creating micro entrepreneurship for women at the lowest rung of the society. I personally have been working with incubation for the last 15 years at IIM Ahmedabad at the CIIE, and have been also teaching courses on entrepreneurship. So that's some of the work that I do, and very happy to be part of this panel to see how we can do more to help people to succeed in their entrepreneurial dreams.
All right. Thank you. Yatin, if you want to go next.
So thank you so much, Amit, and thank you everyone for having me over here. It's a real honor and pleasure to be participating in it as an entrepreneur who will complete 2 decades in this whole startup space. All I can say is what we have witnessed in the last 5 to 7 years is quite phenomenal. I started my journey in 2003 as a teenage entrepreneur, and from there to today, as I'm building up my own venture fund to support the next generation of entrepreneurs, it's been an exciting time. I think thanks to our Prime Minister on making entrepreneurship movement so mainstream. 2015, on the Independence Day, he announced Startup India and Stand Up India. From that point to now, we have witnessed a huge surge in entrepreneurs, and Professor Vora is the live example where Delhi, as a state, established its own entrepreneurship university, which is great. We worked hard to inspire people um, in becoming entrepreneurs or getting started. I think Amit, you and I have spent most of our lives doing that, especially last 1 decade. Um, from that point to now, where we are getting to see anyone and everyone having the ability to start up has access to formal tools, resources, and skill sets now. I think India will witness something really, really phenomenal in the next 25 years. And I think we should be lucky enough to witness India at 100 being one of the most powerful economies filled with uh, these wonderful and dynamic entrepreneurs from around the country.
Thank you. Thanks, Yatan. And I totally agree with you. I think there is a lot which we are doing, and there is a lot to do. Coming to Somveer, right? Somveer, you've been an entrepreneur now. You are building the ecosystem for Punjab. From Punjab to the world. If you can talk about your journey, what you're doing in Punjab, and what are the next things which you're planning to do.
So yeah, so I was an entrepreneur, and I kind of then thought to myself that everyone must suffer. So I must teach everyone how to become an entrepreneur and kind of, go down that path. It's that journey that you must take. You have to kind of go through it. So what we want to do is what we're trying to do in Punjab is not be the most powerful economy, but try to be the happiest economy. So for us, entrepreneurship is something different. It basically is not creating these Zomatos and the Olas of the world, but making sure that every guy has the ability to employ himself and maybe 5 or 6 other people in an activity which is, well, in an ideal world, very beneficial to society. So what we're trying to
Right.
do is we're trying to, get these guys, and entrepreneurship is in our blood. We're all Indians. I mean, no one has given us anything. हमने सब कुछ अपने आप ही किया है. So that ethos of us being very independent kind of makes us believe that we can not only scale this wonderful state of ours, but we can make sure that we scale it in very happy, equitable, and very kyocera kind of way.
Nice, interesting. Right, that's actually a very very interesting take of being happy entrepreneur. Because so Yatin and I are actually not in the country, but I was talking about this happy entrepreneurship with a couple of folks I've met in the morning, and I think this is what we are missing out on, right? So I think this probably we are. I would love to talk about this because this is something which we don't talk about. So apart from businesses, there's a lot of people intervention which happens, right? So you are talking to customers, you're talking to your employees, you're talking to investors, stakeholders who are humans at the end. How do you see these young entrepreneurs and who are still figuring out their way, and right, they are in their early 20s, and I think Professor Vora and so especially from both of you, what do you think, how can we help them understand what it takes to become a better human being and then an entrepreneur, right? So that's what I think we are missing out on. Your take on that.
Um,
Go first.
um, I don't know what it takes, but I think if we are looking at it from the perspective of a university or a institute of eminence or wherever it is, I think at any point of time, the education has to be more holistic and 360-degree, and not just on getting a job, or not just on being a topper, or just on starting an enterprise.
Right.
So I don't think you can teach somebody as a subject how to be happier or how to be a better person. I think it has to be an immersion. It has to be something that they see people around them doing, and therefore, the educational institutions have great responsibility in being models, in being good role models, in picking up every opportunity to kind of create this whole environment of being a more holistic human, or being more holistic in whatever they're looking at. And so I don't think the answer is simple. I think it's actually on all of us, as leaders, as faculty, as people who come into the universities and institutes, to actually say, what am I modeling for the other? And what are we rewarding? What are we, questioning? What are we really making heroes of, or heroines of? And that is what is very important for us to look at. So I think it's a complex, but who says it has to be simple?
True.
So I
True.
mean, sorry, if your question is that what do we go and teach a kid, the first thing we tell him is Shark Tank is not entrepreneurship. The first thing I tell everyone I meet, and these are guys from schools and colleges which are small cities in Punjab. The problem today is, देखो 10 साल पहले की होता सी कि जेडे मतलब, you know, if you were in the village, you did not know what was going on in the world. You did not
Right.
know that there's a brand of jeans called Levi's. I'm just trying to be, you know, I'm exemplifying the statement. You did not know there were a pair of Nikes. Today we live
Right.
in the Instagram generation, where every guy, even in a village like Landra, understands that there is something called Onitsuka Tigers. I mean, I'm like, where did you hear this name from? So everyone has the same dreams. They have the same wants. Now comes to the fact कि how do we bridge that gap between मैंने चाहिए की है तो मैं की कर सकता. So a lot of
Right.
our time is spent in telling these guys, यार ये मत करो, or you know, don't jump into the river. Feel it with one foot. You don't need to teach these guys entrepreneurship. You just need to
Hmm.
teach them control. That's I want to get like Yoda over here for a minute. You don't need, the forces within them. They know how to do business. It's in all of us. It's in our blood. What needs to be
Agreed.
taught is what to do and slightly where to hold back, how to see what people are saying, what lenses to use. If someone, for example, I've seen people, I'm just sorry, I'm just going to take a second. I've seen people go to, you know, there are hundreds of these case competitions which are happening today all over the state, all over the country.
Right.
Every guy and his dad is the judge. Every guy and his dad, right? So these judges, when they go to these things and they look at the entrepreneur and say, "Tisne kuch nahi hoga, tu time waste kar raha hai, tu gadha hai." That sounds really good on TV, but
Hmm.
it breaks the kid. And these are 18, 19-year-old impressionable children. So what we
Yep.
do is, the first thing is we make sure that we are very, very controlled with our advice, and we are very, very controlled with our emotions, because we don't know what the kid has gone through. And we
Agreed.
know that he really wants to succeed. So I'll leave it at that, and then I'll kind of jump in later.
Yeah, that's actually very interesting. Yatin, you want to share your thoughts there?
Of course, I completely agree with what Somvi said. I share the same sentiment. Being a high school kid, I remember when I was starting up this, I went through the same journey, right? Everyone was
Hmm.
like, "What the hell are you doing, man? You got to," there was, everyone told me that you need to have a formal education behind you. And my question was, why? Right? What is that degree giving me? I want to be an entrepreneur, and unfortunately my school decided that I shouldn't be an engineer, I should be a business professional, right? Why wasn't I given that choice? I think
Hmm.
that was my revolt, and as a result of that I said, you know what, I'm going to build something as a non-technical guy, and I'll show the world I can do it. When I
Right.
was starting up, everyone said, "बेटा business शुरू करने के लिए पैसा चाहिए होता है." And I was like, "नहीं, I think दिमाग चाहिए होता है." Right? And that's what happened. I think it's been 20 years. I managed. I still continue to struggle, but fine. I think I've been managing my show. But I think 10 years back, when startup weekends came in my life, right? I joined as a volunteer. Amit, you would very well know that. That's
Yeah.
also the time when I accidentally took over the moonlighting, the first co-working space, right? It was exactly the same issue. Before that, what I felt, everyone would demotivate people because there'll be some judge in your family, whether it's your own parents, your peers, your close friends, your batchmates in school, college, or some chachaji, tayaji who has some understanding about business, who will be judging you. You'll be like, boss, I don't need your judgment. All you can
Right.
say is, कर लो बेटा, ट्राई करके देखो, शायद क्या पता क्या हो जाए. And I think for us, startup weekend was one of that movement where we brought people together. We gave them a platform to pitch, no matter how random that idea would be. People came and pitched, and that gave them the confidence to talk and express their ideas. And there were other people who said, "Oh, you know what? Your idea sounds good. Let me back you up," and they would vote for you. And eventually, that's how you would build a company. I think from that point to where we are today, we have clearly seen that it's that basic motivation which leads to a larger impact and innovation. If you can't motivate people, uh, it's a done deal, and it's a very make or break situation at that point of time. And I think that's what universities and colleges need to teach. I think it's fabulous how entrepreneurship cells are being formed. I think now they exist in every college. I think this whole entrepreneurship philosophy is trickling down to the school level, which is much needed. But all these institutions do is they are facilitators, they are the catalyst who motivate people to start, and that's what we need. Somewhere I agree that your success doesn't your success cannot be assessed whether you are published in Forbes 30 under 30 or some other magazines 40 under 40. Your success cannot be assessed by how many millions of dollars you generated, and your success cannot be assessed by which brand of clothes you are wearing or which brand of car are you driving. It is about what you have done, what problem are you solving, the problem which you are solving, is it able to sustain itself, are you able to generate money out of it, are you able to create some reserves? If you are able to do so, I think you're successful.
Agreed, agreed. And I think I can relate with that because as a kid in Ludhiana, I actually was doing this. Probably when I was just after 10th, I was trying to do experiments, and nobody actually, thankfully, nobody stopped me to doing experiments because today, in hindsight, I look at that, and in those experiments, we probably were buying something for 100 rupees and selling for 120, and we were like, we thought we were making money, but today I see that there are a lot of things, but thankfully those experiments helped me, so to be and to so there has to be a platform where we let them be what they want to do, right, and let them experiment on things. There is one interesting story which I know I want to share, and want to ask a question. Last Tuesday, I was in a place called Maharajganj, which is closer to Prayagraj. We are setting up an incubator there, and I was talking about Uber and bitcoins and Airbnb. I was giving them as examples, and for some reason, I asked them, how many people, how many of you, right? There was 70 kids. How many of you have ever been to Delhi? And there were just 12 hands which came up, and I realized कि मैं क्या बता रहा हूँ इन्हें इन्हें यही नहीं, ये दिल्ली तक नहीं गए जो 7 घंटे दूर है. How do I assume that they would know about Airbnb and all that? So my question to three of you is, there is a huge untapped talent which is sitting in Bharat, as we call it, right? The tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 places, from all over the country. How do you think we should work on these, bringing this becoming mainstream? Because it's the struggle which we had, Yathin, right? 10 years, 15 years back in the cities, it's still there. They are still looking at a government job because that's their, I have achieved mark. How do we kind of shake that and challenge that and help them, try to do these experiments? So you talked about, I think, certain things. So if you want to start, pick that up first.
I'm in a fantastic state right now. So Punjab, we don't have any problem of of no jobs, because 80% of the youth go to Delhi, take a one-way trip to Toronto, get off there, go to their cousins, their masi, their chachi, their tadis, the entire villages there. So the amount of people that we send, one state alone, to the US, to Canada, to Australia is phenomenal. It's shameful for us. And the reason is, but you have to understand why they go. Our guys here. So let me take a step back. Let me answer your questions to what's required, because we've been trying to figure out how to do this in that scale. And we realized, आप startup competition कराओ, जिन्हें कराने करा लो, कोई कुछ नहीं होना. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਕੂਲ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਅਵਾਰਡ ਦੋ, MI ਮਤਲਬ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਆਪਣਾ ਸਟਾਰਟਅਪ ਸੈੱਲ ਖੋਲੋ, ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ do these things. Sorry, I break out into Punjabi once in a while. ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਕਰਾਓ. It doesn't make that much of a difference. You have to show these guys case studies. What that means is what they see. Let's say I'm looking at Yatin right now. I'm like, ऐसा entrepreneur होना चाहिए. He's got earpods on, so to be an entrepreneur, I need earpods. He's got that lamp, so to be an entrepreneur, I need a lamp. That's what these people think. That's what all of us think. When we see a Mark Cuban on TV, we said, I want to be like this. I want to talk like that. I want to walk like that, because not knowing that this guy's probably worked 23 or 24 hours in the last 20 years to get to that position. So we need to show case studies. इनको एक case study दिखाओ कि देखो हमको, what we do in Punjab today is I get them. I said, these are two boys from a not so well known school in Chandigarh. They went to Bangalore and they worked in Amazon. And you know what they do today? They own Flipkart. This is a boy from Gadashankar, near, right, here in Punjab. He didn't know what to do, so he ended up making Grofers. This one
Hmm.
boy from Bhatinda, he wanted to do something after IIT, he made Zomato. We give these guys case studies. This guy from this background went here and did this. At our time, it was success. If you want to be successful, go to an IIT, go to an IM, you are successful. Nothing can break you. Marriage proposals will come by the dozen. Today, these people, and that wasn't the case. That really wasn't the case. Today, people think you get funded, you talk brash, you kind of have, a strong opinion on everything. You're in the D2C market, you're burning money. That is success. That is not success. So, for people in the smaller towns, the villages, the Bharat, as you call it, I don't want to use the word gullible. I don't want to use the word trusting. That those are all slightly negative connotations. But these guys will believe what you say. यार. आप ना इनके
True.
पास 2 दिन बैठो, 2 बारी खाना खाओ, वो कुछ भी बिलीव कर लेंगे आप. तो इट्स आवर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, क्योंकि इन्हीं के पैसों से हम स्कूल गए थे, हम कॉलेज
Hmm.
में गए हैं, हमने सब्सिडाइज एजुकेशन ली है, तो वी मस्ट गिव बैक. तो वो जो गिव बैक कर रहे हैं ना हम, वो इनको ये दिखाना है कि यार ये केस स्टडी है, ये लड़के को देख इसने क्या किया, इस लड़की को देख. वी हैव अगेन, आई एम सो सॉरी, आई गेट पैशनेट अबाउट दिस. वी हैव अ गर्ल, a wonderful woman entrepreneur from Abohar, which is a village near the border, where there are no women, there are less women, let me put it. She manages a 100-acre wheat farm, where she realized that I don't want to be in this jungle of MSP. So she started developing hybrid wheat at another level. Sorry, the specialty wheat at another level. Today, she's the sole provider for all your Sachali's bakery, Sabko bakery, your Theobromas, of the Tajes, your Oberoi. She knows every chef in India from Abohar. It's unbelievable. And if I take this woman and her example and show it to 100 other girls, at least we'll have one more. And then we'll have one more. And then that is what we need to do with our population. ये fast bang shang नहीं चलेगा. ये हम प्यार से करेंगे, हो जाएगा.
Agreed. Agreed. Professor Vora, your take on that? Sorry, you're on mute. Yeah.
No, I'm not. Okay.
No,
So I think the thing that I think really excites me is the fact that two or three things. One, I think I like the example that Somveer just gave about this girl in Abohar, right? Because she's looking at an opportunity that exists within her ecosystem. She's not, and then of course she's going out selling anywhere, that's a different story, but she's not
right.
looking at going to Delhi to make a life,
Hmm.
or to be successful. So I think ek to ye that these people need to come to, or they need to know what is happening in a large city. We have to get away from it, because there
Yeah.
are enough opportunities, there are enough problems, there are enough things that are happening in their environment which can be converted into an entrepreneurial opportunity. I think we have to kind of start, as whoever is engaged in this has to start looking at some of this. I think our best experience of regional entrepreneurship or rural entrepreneurship has come from starting OSs in Jaipur and Rajasthan, from CII, and we've really seen that these kids who living in Jodhpur, in Bikaner, in all of that, and of course many of these communities, including Punjab and Gujarat and all these, are sort of a little more entrepreneurial than others, like other compared to Orissa or Bengal or some of these. But even here what we find is, like, this kid is saying, my dad, we have this, I'm going to create this kind of fertilizer, right? And it's organic, it's this. He has a certain idea, he's using his education, he's using the raw material that is present in his environment to create into a
Right.
business. So I think that is the kind of entrepreneurship we really need to uh, encourage, rather than saying copy models that are available in this, in the large metros. That's a recipe for failure. I completely, I have no, one of the things I feel very frustrated about is कि आप कुछ भी कर लो, at the end of the day, everybody, irrespective of where they are, they believe that one, government job, and secondly a job closest to their home. I personally believe if people can start to travel, to look at different opportunities, that might change how we look at our entire world around us. So uh, how do we create how do we get some people out of their own worlds, or their own small silos? And it doesn't matter, this could be people in Bombay and Delhi sometimes are worse than people who live in smaller cities. I grew up in a small city, but a very in Rourkela, it was a steel plant. It was cosmopolitan, so we traveled just because of where we lived. So my thought is that I think if we can get people to travel, and I think that is one of the things education needs to do, is to make it possible for actually force people to get out of their own environments, because
Right.
that builds perspective to no extent. That opens you up to even opportunities that are next to you. As they say, the fish is the last one to know water. सो
Hmm.
वो बाहर जाने से यू गेट टू एक्चुअली अंडरस्टैंड कि हमारे पास क्या है और हम इसको क्या कर सकते हैं टू क्रिएट इनटू अ बिजनेस. So you know we're a diverse large country. We don't need visas to travel within our own country. Can we actually make it possible for people to travel, make it aspirational to travel, is one of the things I
Okay.
would say.
Yes, yes, I agree. I agree. Yatin, you are already traveling, right? You're in Dubai. What's your take here?
No, so I agree. I think when we talk about a subject like entrepreneurship, when we talk about inspiring and motivating people, it's not an easy task. You know, like it as they say, it takes a village to make one success story, right? Like or it takes a village to do a marriage. It's like entrepreneurship and the startup journey is no less than a marriage. So
Right.
in this case, everyone needs to be a part of the system, right? And and how these entrepreneurs are supported defines their journey. I think for the longest time, the unfortunate part of an entrepreneur's life is that the life is very lonely and they are in it all alone.
Hmm.
सक्सेस तो है, सक्सेस के पीछे तो हर कोई भागते हैं, बट अनफॉर्चुनेटली फेलियर भी entrepreneur का ही है. And you know,
Right.
till the time we do not uh, accept failures, and as a society we cannot build successful entrepreneurs, because जरूरी नहीं है कि जो आप चीज शुरू कर रहे हो वो straight away hit होएगी, right? I think people ask me the same question. In 20 years, I think I launched about 12 or 13 businesses. I think it was on my seventh or eighth business finally I achieved profitability. At that point, people would question me कि बस तुम तो focused ही नहीं रहते हो, तुम तो क्या नाम है बहुत ज्यादा मूव करते रहते हो, अब कुछ और नया शुरू कर दिया, अच्छा वो फेल हो गया, तुम्हारे से तो कुछ चलता ही नहीं है. Even over here when I met people, like there was I transitioned out. I moved to UAE last year primarily to build global exposure for our founders, because as you said कि लोग बाहर नहीं निकलते अपने शहर से आसपास से, they won't go to the neighboring town, forget traveling outside the world. And if India really wants to become a global power, we need to tell the world that guys, we have innovations, we are solving problems, right? We have this world class suite available in a small
Hmm.
town. Come talk to us, right? That exposure needs to be created, and these stories have to be taken to the world. I've been fortunate that in last 8 9 years I was given global exposure. That's the reason I am where I am. But वो सपोर्ट बिल्ड करना पड़ता है, वो सपोर्ट देना पड़ता है, राइट? एंड उसके लिए एक्सेप्टेंस होनी पड़ती है, विच इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. सो आई थिंक वन थिंग विच नीड्स टू बी taught fundamentally to Indian kids is failures and acceptance to failures, right? I was a failed kid, unfortunately, right? I think that's why I learned it. I was always a backbencher. No matter how much I used to study, I would still get a red line in one subject at least. I was always stamped that he'll be amongst the last five kids in the class as a backbencher, as a last five kid. And not that I was a spoiled kid. It was just that it wasn't like I was just not cut out for it, right? But the society said that if you want to be successful, you need to study, you need to be in the best university, you need to be in the best B school. That's when you'll get the best salary. I was like, boss, मेरे को तो चाहिए ही नहीं salary. Where's the profit? I want a profit share. So, so for that, you had to carve your own path, right? And when you're
Right.
carving your own path, it's a different journey altogether, and you keep falling. But those failures make you learn so many things, and those failures make you so much more stronger and powerful that your risk-taking appetite changes. And at that stage, at the early stage, at the teenage stage, or at the early 20s stage, you are still starting up. So even if you fall, you won't feel the pain, right? Just like a kid doesn't feel the pain when they fall. So I think the job of us as ecosystem promoters, builders, motivators, educationists, investors is that we should be okay, one, with failures. Second, we need to come up to support these people. You know, it's a lonely journey. उस टाइम पे कुछ भी सपोर्ट मिले बहुत ही बड़ी चीज होती है. Founders go through a lot of hardships. They see days where they don't have money to even probably afford a meal. People don't talk about it, right? Like, because you might be sitting on the last cent in your last rupee in your wallet, and you'll be like, boss, मैं क्या करूँ? घर जाऊँ कि पैसे खाना खाऊँ, right? But they will live without money. Someone needs to come up and support them. And that's where, the society needs to accept them, because you might be on a passage to build something disruptive. And I think those stories really need to come up. Those are the real things which need to be taught to people. And you need to equip people to be okay with those hardships and situations. If that can be done, I'm sure we'll get to see far more success stories than what we get to see now.
Right. Agreed. And I think some great points there from all three of you. Uh, it's the system which actually, I think that there is a system, at least there is an evolved system right now in the last 8-9 years, which has been built for people who are trying to build upon it. And the travel, the travel thing is definitely there, because what I've also realized when I talk to people in the bureaucracy or the ministry, is the fact that they always would say, इसको इस शहर को बैंगलोर बना देते हैं, and that should be done the next day. But one thing which I've been telling them, that we don't need to become a Bangalore. We need to be the Bangalore for Bangalore. Let's get some folks to hire people in Chandigarh, right, in Ranchi, in Patna, and out of those 10, 20, 100 people they will hire, some of them will get exposed, and all of them have ideas. Some of them will build smart businesses. So it's a game of patience also, especially when you're trying to bring these ecosystems in small cities. Uh, what do you think about the apart from the government, the mechanism which has been set? What are the few things which we should look at, right? And we should talk about this with other stakeholders. So it's not about just having a entrepreneurship cell in colleges. I think it needs to be one of the things which I try to push as much as possible is faculty orientation around entrepreneurship, which I don't see happening. And so for few of the things which you think the local ecosystem needs when we are trying to promote this, especially in the smaller cities, right? So apart from and I see a lot of entrepreneurs saying that सरकार हमारे लिए क्या कर रही है, मतलब इतने 1,000 crore का grant है, कैसे मिलेगा वो सब. But what are the baby steps, small things which we can do as a college, as a university, as probably some bureaucrats who are participating there. Some of the things which probably you have learned are going to make sense for the larger ecosystem.
So because I have to leave, and I will just do a quick, conversation on this.
Sure.
My sense is that uh, these are some of these things don't happen by sarkar or by policy. I think at best the government can make it, make some of the processes simple. उसके सिवा और कुछ नहीं होता. I think it is a much more individual and a societal level thing. I often give this example of, the fact that when I moved from Orissa to Gujarat for my job, I used to go to this person who used to sell dhokla, and he would ask me, तो दीदी आप क्या करते हो? And I would say I'm a professor, and he would say, but वो तो ठीक है, but धंधा क्या करते हो? um, and I'm like, धंधा क्या करते हैं? कुछ नहीं, धंधा नहीं. I mean, I'm a professor. So next time when I went back, he said, I've thought something for you. आपको आप at least tuition ले लो. Yeah, so I said, नहीं नहीं, मेरे को धंधा नहीं करना है. I'm a professor. So so that was just the fact that he couldn't get his head around the fact that, how can you be just having a job? I mean, you should be doing something else with your life. What was also interesting was that that person uh, failed 3 times. So वो पहले ढोकला बेचता था, फिर वो पापड़ करने लगा because the dhokla shop was not doing too well. Then he started making papad. And there was no shame in the fact that he was pivoting every time. And so that, I think, is a societal thing, right? When the society doesn't have any stigma around your failure, when the society actually asks you to, what is the business that you run, you will have that much more acceptable for a person to run a business than for somebody in Orissa, where, on the other hand, I have a very different experience where somebody who was running a business ended up starting a first generation business, ended up at the request of his father joining a scheme that was brought out by the government to employ engineers at 8,000 rupees. ये बंदा बिट्स पिलाने से पास करके बिजनेस चला रहा है, एंड देन बिकॉज हिज फादर वाज सो वरीड कि इसको कोई लड़की नहीं मिलेगी, ही एक्चुअली joined, and for about 3 months he went every morning, signed, came back, and then at some point said, this is it, I'm not doing this. Continues to run a business, continues to be very successful, but the fact is there was pressure on him to not reveal that he's running a business, but he's actually employed by the government at 8,000 rupees, albeit. So that is the kind of thing I think we need. The changes have to come at the societal level, at the individual level. I don't think these are government or policy that is ever going to bring a change.
Right.
You need environments for this, and I think environments get created by all of us together. So therefore, I think a DSCU makes a lot of sense, because it is saying entrepreneurship is as relevant as possibly finding a job. Yeah, it's in our name itself, in that sense. So that, I think, are some of the things that possibly need to be done to create an environment. And sorry, I do have to leave another meeting, but thank you, a
No,
lovely conversation.
thank
Would
you
be
so
very
much
happy
for taking your
with
time,
each other.
Professor.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Right. So, Somveer, if you want to,
I have a very
take
different
that.
answer on this.
Sure.
You ask
Sure.
any entrepreneur कि तुमको सरकार से क्या चाहिए, बोलते हैं वो भूल जाए हमारे बारे में, वो इतना दूर रहे हमसे कि उनको पता ही लगे हम एग्जिस्ट करते हैं, हमको वही चाहिए. And it's true. The reason is the way governments are structured. They're structured for very short-term benefit, and these are long-term benefit things, right? Most of these industries, most of these guys, see, there are two types of entrepreneurs here. Ekta, who you're trying to make an entrepreneur. There the government can help. It can help give a platform. It can help. A single government phone call will make sure half the government colleges are talking to you. A simple government phone call will make the DCs of the entire area talking to you. They make that machinery slightly easier to do. But when you go to the more established, the slightly more serious entrepreneurs, they don't want anything from the government. And if they do want something from the government, I think they realize that they'll have to give a lot. You can see a couple of big startups in today's thing. Some do well, some don't do well, and some of them are politically linked. The idea is that you want to stay as far away from that as possible. That's what my belief is. I could be wrong.
Right. So apart from the policy side, what do you think should be some certain things? Let's keep aside the government infrastructure. What we need to ensure that the ground level entrepreneurship, right, or innovation keeps happening and keeps getting better.
So if you're asking me, I mean, it's so I can give you an answer in context of Punjab, where we are and what we're trying to do here.
Sure.
So we're a poor state. We're a state which is nearly bankrupt. So we have very little money to give our guys. What we've realized is we have a couple of strong points. And strong points are our people are naturally entrepreneurial. They're just naturally entrepreneurial. Also, I don't think there's a money raise problem for these guys. Most of them have relatives and benefactors and cousins and all abroad. Money pouring into Punjab itself is not an issue. The only thing is what Niharika spoke about. It's the social ramifications of failing. Can you imagine a 6'3" in Jat who leaves his well-paying job of driving an Uber in California and comes back to Mohali and sets up a food truck? That man is making 3 times the money that he was abroad. He has a name, but if he fails, that's the end of his life. Because the amount of ridicule that he'll have to go through in his village, in his town, amongst his family members, is not even close to. I mean, it's not fathomable. It's I don't know. It's difficult.
Right.
Similarly, when you look at all of us. Anyone who's done engineering in this, out of all of us, I don't know if you guys are engineers. If you've done engineering, you've only done engineering because you got good marks. You don't love the subject at all. नंबर अच्छे आ गए engineering. उसके पहले नंबर अच्छे आ गए तो non-med. उसके पहले नंबर अच्छे आ गए तो ये वाला स्कूल. हम नंबरों पे सब कुछ करते हैं. मुझे आर्किटेक्ट बनना था क्योंकि मेरे को मन था बिल्डिंग्स डिजाइन करने में. और नंबर अच्छे आ गए तो इंजीनियरिंग होगी. मैं भी सोच रहा हूँ वो सब घर वाले भी कह रहे हैं तो बेटा मैकेनिकल कर ले, सेम ही होता है. वो भी बिल्डिंग बनाते, तू भी बिल्डिंग बनाता है. like yeah, correct in a way. But I'm just gonna say that everything is determined. We don't want half the stuff that happens to us is by accident.
Right.
So I'm going to just leave it there right now. So Yatin, I'll kind of let you fill in with your thoughts.
No, I think you make some valid points and a lot of real time examples. These are the kind of things which personally I love. I think between Yatin and I, we have been discussing this for almost a decade now. That we need to have real conversation. It can't be just about funding. Every time. Right, Yatin, what's your take? On the ecosystem, right? Which all of us have been trying to contribute. What it takes beyond the government.
No, I think I would say government has a very critical role to play, and I would say that to a large extent, government has done a good job. One, at least in instigating the feeling of entrepreneurship, right? If Prime Minister of a country goes on stage on the most important day of the country and says that stand up India, start up India, that in a lot of ways echoed the voice, right? So I remember we were while we were running startup weekends. From that point, every place we would go to, everyone, every successful entrepreneur, industrialist, mentor, investor would come in and echo the same voice in the same tone. That inspired a lot of people to start up, right? A point है उसके आगे क्या हो रहा है? And I would say how some of the states formulated their policies, facilitated connections, and showcased role models is fab, right? Like Razorpay being the clear example, coming out of Rajasthan, Car Dekho coming out of Jaipur, right? These are small town stories. These are like so there are a lot of founders who probably migrated to larger cities and launched, but there are also people who started from smaller towns and made it big, right? And there are those stories. I think today what we get to see after working with different state governments, be it the governments in Kerala, in Telangana, in Maharashtra, in Odisha, right? I think they are doing a great job of at least building the connections. Haryana, is actually, I think very few people know that Haryana started this initiative where they are building incubators within universities, and these are privately run incubators. They came up with a grant, and one of our partner organizations, which started startup weekends in the Tri City, they are actually building up these incubators. So I visited one of the incubator in Gurgaon because they were given the mandate, and they had built the incubator inside a government university in Guru Dronacharya College or something. I was wondering कि कौन आएगा यार, मतलब waste of money, you know. Uh, Again, government initiative है, what's going to happen? Now, this is in 2019. In 2022, it's a role model because obviously then they got the right team to run it. They were able to facilitate connections for these people, and these are not entrepreneurs who are looking to raise money. These were entrepreneurs who were looking to grow business. These were there to adopt technology or digital tools, and that's what these guys enable. So I think, and I think somewhere the message conveyed by our prime minister and even the states is that they are not hunting behind those unicorns, right? वो तो आएंगे आएंगे यार, वो तो I think इंडियन जनता is smart, kids are smart, IITN हो आप, IIM से हो तो आप कर लोगे, right? But it's these smaller success stories, those micro entrepreneurs, what kind of impact can they make? Because they are the real movers and shakers of the local economy. They are the
Right.
real contributors. They run profitable businesses which contribute to the economy in many ways. You know, the big unicorns attract money, but that goes for maybe their engineering development, their digital media spends, their brand building, etc. So the beneficiaries are very limited in that extent. So even if you have raised a lot of money, there's only few wealthy people who make more money, right? We are talking about empowering those marginal guys. How do we uplift them? How do we empower them? And how do we make sure that they are able to make an impact? And I think that's what I would say government has done a good job on that front. They have been able to empower people, and today a small guy or a woman who was working out of her home, who was running, let's say, a small boutique, is also able to come into the formal system, and she's able to build a brand, build a proper formal business, which transacts through a proper banking channel. And I think that's so that way is the way digital drive is going, the way policies are being carved out. Micro entrepreneurship does get a lot of support.
Right, right. Agreed, agreed. And I think at least both of us are live examples where we started working with the government, right? There was an inhibition in the early days that we should not talk to the government. Let's build businesses. But I think that there is the support ecosystem which was created, right? And I think I'm a good example where two of our incubators are supported by UP government. One is supported by the national government now, right? Which so they are giving us funds that they know that we understand startups probably better than them. They are ensuring that we should have some money to give away to the right candidates, right? Who are building good businesses. So I think we have what 10 minutes now. I would like to probably if there are questions from the audience, we can pick that up. I will let me just check. Right. Right. So I think last couple of questions before we wrap this up. Samir, I have lived in Punjab, right? So born and brought up in Punjab, and I know, and I have a lot of faith in the state and the people from Punjab. Uh, what are the few things And you said that we should talk about examples. So I think from both of you, let's talk about some examples, some good examples where you feel that and these probably will these are funded, not funded. I don't personally care. I think good entrepreneurs, some couple of stories which you think should come out while we have a national platform right now. So, a couple of stories which you want to share, both of you would like to share.
I mean, I have tons of case studies, tons of stories, right? So I spoke about this three firms in Abohar who does exactly what I told you she does. Absolutely fantastic work in being able to get packaged wheat. We've got a bunch of guys from Gurdaspur, and you have to see these cities. These are small cities in Punjab. They're not very large.
Right, right, right.
Traditional businesses are they make good, and now they're making good sachets so that you don't have to use a mouth freshener. You can actually use good in doing that. Being an agricultural state, we would have thought that a lot of our innovations will be in agriculture. There are hardly any. A lot of our innovations are in healthcare. They are in um, I mean, so they are a product of what our people see on a daily basis, and they don't see agriculture on a daily basis for some reason now. They see their Instagram. They see so they are rich. So we're a poor state, but we are a poor state of very rich people. So it's these guys have the and you'll probably know that if you were in Ludhiana, right? So these guys have they have that spending power, and I think the local demands are being created around those now, and that is one of the success stories that we see over here, that we don't have to go outside for most of the stuff. It can happen within a very small local geography. So whether it is delivery of food, delivery of milk, delivery, and when I say deliver in a local area, I'm saying that कोई गुड़ बना रहा है, कोई दूध बना रहा है, कोई खाना उगा रहा है. Just do it better in a slightly more value-added form so you make more money. That was entrepreneurship that we were trying to get these guys to do. Existing things that they're doing. And then that leads us to Amit, the most important part of this whole entrepreneurship thing. Who's an entrepreneur? Everyone has such a different definition. The end goal of an entrepreneur, according to Shark Tank, is to raise money, or to everybody else कि पैसे रेज हो जाए, उसके बाद सीए को सिर्फ पैसे रेज करने हैं, काम तो कोई और कर रहा है. So that is the way everyone thinks about it. Our
Right.
entrepreneurship is different. We'll go to SMEs who are making 1, 2, 3 crores. मैं से यार तू क्या गधा है, तेरे पास इतना अच्छा बिल्डिंग है, तेरे पास मशीनरी है, तेरे को गवर्नमेंट सपोर्ट दे रही है, वो पागलों जैसे सब कुछ कर रहे हैं, तो तू यहाँ क्यों फंसा हुआ है? And I told you initially that mind has to be broken, that case studies have to be shown, that path has to be shown. You have to take that pointer and say that that is where you need to go. And that guy, once his blinds are, once he's seeing that clearly, nothing can stop our country. Nothing. But till that time, you and I and Yatin, all of us have to go to these boys and girls and say, yeah, don't go by what I look like. Don't go by the fact that I'm wearing a blue turban or a fancy shirt or a pair of loafers, or whatever they normally see. See what I've done. I personally spent 4 years in Kerala selling cars. And the reason is they posted me to Chennai. And I was so pissed off. I said, how can you post me so south? It's nonsense. I'm from Chandigarh to Kerala. Then my boss had a sick sense of humor. He already posted me to Cochin, which is another 1,000 miles down south, right? So I spent 4 years there. And that's when I realized that, yaar, घिसना पड़ता है थोड़ा ना. You have to go out there and क्योंकि ना आपको चीज last thing Amit, between my works manager in a small workshop in Kerala and me who was supervising him, there was no difference. We were the same. वो उसके फादर साहब भी वही आर्मी में, हमारे भी वो आर्मी में, सब सेम है. उसने कॉलेज में थोड़ा वो नेतागिरी में घुस गया, थोड़ा इसमें घुस गया, थोड़ा उसमें घुस गया, यहाँ थोड़ा पढ़ाई हो गया, कोई ट्यूशन लग गया, सही कुछ आईआईटी, मतलब वो आईआईटी में नहीं निकला, कोई मतलब इट्स जस्ट लक एट अ सर्टेन लेवल. वो नहीं होता क्वांटम फिजिक्स होता है कि यू डोंट नो वेदर इज वो ही और हो रहा था हमारे साथ. सो ना इनको थोड़ा दिखाएंगे ना एक बारी विदाउट सेइंग कि मैं बड़ा हूँ तेरे से, क्योंकि मैं पहुंच चुका हूँ, कोई थोड़ा प्यार से ऐसे करेंगे ना, you see where we go. Yeah, we're going to have either a really awesome next 20 years, or all of us will have to take Canadian immigration. So let me keep it that way.
Thanks. Yatin, your take quickly, and then I would also, I'm just saying that Yatin, because you will talk about some examples, but also if you can talk about, because we are celebrating Azadi ka Amrit Mahotsav. So your message to whoever listening to us in terms of entrepreneurship and development for the next 25 years.
So Amit, I won't give examples. I think Somveer has anyways given a lot of examples, and I think there are just tons and tons of them. I feel I've been very fortunate enough to be able to travel to the heartland of our country. Right, I used to run a rural tech venture myself between 2011 and 2013, and as part of that, I witnessed the agriculture, the farming belts of the country very closely. आई थिंक मेरी रियल अवेकनिंग तो तभी होगी थी क्योंकि उससे पहले दिल्ली में बैठ के आपको लगता है कि आप सब जानते हो. You know, you are reading a lot about the problems of the country and you are trying
Yeah.
to come up with solutions कि यही solution होएगा जो चलेगा. I think for me the message was very clear when I was selling my rural tech agro solution which would have transformed the lives of farmers sitting online. I called up one gentleman and he said, यतिन जी जब आपको एक किसान से बात करनी होती है ना तो फोन पे नहीं करते, यहाँ आके करते हैं. आप इधर कब आएंगे तब बात कीजिए, फिर हम आगे आपसे बात करेंगे. And when I went there, the story was very different, man. And I think rather than selling technology, I myself became a farmer because they asked me a very critical question. They said, you are selling a farming solution, but आपको farming आती है? आपने कभी खेती की है? And I was like, shit, that hit me hard, you know, like, and I was like, I got to do that. And next 2.5 years, while doing all the madness with my work, I was actually farming. And, you know, that completely transformed me as a person because that's where I realized that no matter where you are coming from, ठीक है, we have had our own hardships and challenges as an entrepreneur, as a founder. But the subject which you are talking about, जब तक आप वो खुद नहीं समझोगे, तब तक कुछ नहीं होएगा. I believe the Uber India MD, you know, did a ground analysis. He actually one day he started picking up customers. He was Uber driver for a day. It was covered as a story. I don't know whether it was a PR stunt or whether he actually meant it. But that's what is required. जब तक आप खुद जमीन पे नहीं उतरते तब तक कुछ नहीं होता. And I feel today India is at a position where it's developing very fast. The digital divide is already shrinking. We know that. We are probably maybe the only country which provides the most affordable internet access. We have 90% coverage, if not more. I think it's 85 to 90% coverage.
Right.
So at this point of time, information has reached the places where we wanted to reach. We just want to make sure that this access to technology, internet, and information is being used by people in the right manner. If that can be ensured, a lot can be done. Today, like I'll give you an example. As we speak, I realized like during one of my farm visits, I think it was in the year 2013, and I was traveling to a place called Shiroli in Maharashtra. This is about, I think it's the tri circuit from Pune. So Pune, Bombay, and Shiroli was somewhere in the middle. It had so this is the belt where you have onion growers, and they also grow tomatoes, and they are also sugarcane growers. So I remember I was on a field visit with one of my farmer friend, and he says, "Tell come Yatin." I was visiting him in Bombay. He says, "Okay, let me just take you to this farming belt." I said, "Okay, chalo." I went there and I met these farmers. I met about 20 of them. Each of those farmers were hoarding 20 lakhs worth of onions at that point of time. ये तब का प्राइस है जब पहली बार इंडिया में अनियन 100 rupees हिट किया था. And it was in the Navi Mumbai APMC or whatever. This whole issue had happened. So, you know, like you'll feel that illegal they are hoarding. So we realized what was the problem. They said, we have access to Tata Sky. We learned how to grow onions. So earlier, the problem with onions was onions is highly perishable. And it is very difficult. Like no one knew how to store it. So by default, वो जैसे it was grown, harvest होता था वो immediately disperse out हो जाता था, and इसलिए 4 रुपए 5 रुपए 10 रुपए किलो onion बिकता था. But now these guys realize that I have a commodity. If I learn how to store it, I can store it for a longer period and get the best price. And that was the true example of entrepreneurship. So these farmers who used to, let's say, make about 4 to 5 lakh rupees or per year, or maybe 10 lakh rupees per year out of their 10 acres of land, all of a sudden started making 5 to 10 lakh rupees per acre per year, and their earnings were multifold. That's true entrepreneurship. That's where information was disseminated. These farmers upskilled themselves. They got the best guys to teach them how storage needs to be done, and finally they were able to generate good profits. And I don't think there's anything wrong in it, because at the end of the day, it is their commodity.
Right, right. Yeah, Yatin. So sorry. I think we have just gone over time, right? So, I think I would like to thank both of you, right, and Professor Vora to spend time, and for everybody who is listening to us. I also want to thank Daily Hunt and Mash to bring this very interesting panel together. My last, I think my take for you, for the entrepreneurs who are listening to us or will be watching it later, is that start doing, right? Start talking to people, start doing. There is no limit. You can build anything. You don't need to be a unicorn, or you don't need to raise money. It's just about, and start small. You can start from Abohar, right? Gurdaspur, where yeah, sorry.
And don't watch Ashneer Grover.
Right. With that, thank you so much. Right. And thank you again, Mash and Daily Hunt. Thank you.